Hey, this went from it's all over to we're so back like real quick. I want to talk about in this video what I actually think is going to happen for the rest of this year at least. So there's going to be a lot of speculation, a lot of things are going to be wrong, some things might be right. But if we are going to be right about certain things, then already start looking at what color your limbo should be. So when we got the news of the war, there was a somewhat of a panic in the market. Bitcoin sold off a little bit. It went to $98,000. It wasn't that bad for Bitcoin, and I also think that's because people now actually see Bitcoin as a flight to safety and being in an asset that's valuable. Right? They cannot bomb your Bitcoin. They can bomb your house. So that's maybe one of the reasons, of course. But if you look at the altcoin market, that sold off a little harder. Now, why is that? Because altcoins are, of course, way more risky than Bitcoin, and we are not in the general environment yet where people take a lot of risk. But whenever the altcoin market recovers, it recovers harder than Bitcoin as well, of course. If you take it from the recent lows to the wick high, Bitcoin went up with 8%. If you take the altcoin market from the wick low to the high, it went up with 16%. So it outperformed Bitcoin on the way down, but it also outperforms Bitcoin on the way up. And if you catch the lows, yeah, then you can, apart from the long-term investing, at least already make a very, very, very nice trade out of it. Now, I gave my shopping list and my buying levels yesterday. I don't know how much luck it was. I bought Tau at 290. I bought Super at 48.5 cents. And if you look, the low for Super was 47 cents, for example. So I got a lot of great buys in. And I am not actually looking to take much profit yet. I did buy one coin though, and that actually wasn't this one, but I bought one coin which was this one, also pretty low. Put $1,000 in. When I had $1,400, I took $400 out. Just a nice extra $400, right? It's not a big trade, whatever, but just to it wasn't for nothing. However, what is next? How and why do I think it's next? And how are you going to fuck it up, right? And I'm not talking to you necessarily, but the you in this case is the person, and unfortunately, these are the most people I think that are going to mess it up, right? In the crypto market, people win big, but you can only win big if a lot of other people lose. It is always player versus player. If you got dumped on, it's not because the market sucks. It's because somebody else was unfortunately smarter, right? Because they chose to dump. Yeah, and if you are the bag holder by then you are the one who is saying like, hey, you need some exit liquidity. Here, I'm here. You want my wife as well? I don't know what it's worth. You can like, you want to be that person, okay? So let's get into how you can be that person. Now, let's discuss where I think things might go. If we look at Bitcoin, what is so extremely, I don't know what's the right word, funny. I don't know. We talked lately about the global M2 like everybody does these days, right? But it's not for no reason, actually. If you look at the global M2, and we've been looking at this with a 12-week offset, we already said, right? Like, hey, the M2 was going down. So Bitcoin correction. Now what happened? Trump decided to throw some bombs. Oh, okay, yeah, coincidence, I don't know, right? But the M2 is now in a fed uptick. And what happens? That period exactly, that Bitcoin is going up as well. Like, man, you cannot make this up, right? And it's not just a short-term move, because for the global M2, there's a long way to go. Actually, still, we are far from there. But it is kind of crazy if you look how Bitcoin and the M2 are correlated with each other. There is one brief moment in this whole cycle where it deviated a little bit, right? Where the M2 went down and Bitcoin actually went up. Apart from that, it has been following it close to perfect. If it decides to keep on doing what it has been doing for the last 3 years, then we will see new Bitcoin all-time highs within now in August. Right? Hey, could it be that it deviates again? Of course. But again, assuming that the M2 keeps doing what it's doing and Bitcoin keeps following that, yeah, then there we are. And I think it makes a lot of sense because, hey, Bitcoin does what it does based on the liquidity. It's, I think, not that the liquidity, the global liquidity of the whole wide world is following Bitcoin, right? Therefore, Bitcoin isn't big enough yet. So I'm pretty hopeful about this, actually. So what if we do see new Bitcoin all-time highs? Right? And people have been talking about 140K Bitcoin, and I can kind of see why. And I showed this in the Alpha Factory, so I don't want to go into much details. If you are in the Alpha Factory, then you'll know this. But if you look at the average run-up, like what Bitcoin does this cycle, right? Go sideways, up, sideways, up, sideways, up. These moves up are at least 60%, up to 120%. Right, so that way you can see for yourself, like, hey, if we get such a move up, what is the average move up nowadays? And that could put it anywhere, you know, depending on from where you take it up to how many percent, but that should be way over 130 actually. So I don't know, interesting times. Now I have put out this tweet, and I think that this is, yeah, something you should know at least. Otherwise, I wouldn't tweet it, of course. I said, people are going to hate me for this, but here we go. The altcoin market is likely going to rally really hard. I'm going to show why. But people, again, already fucked it up before that even happens. Right? And why do people do that? Yeah, it's just like all the other markets, right? Especially if you look at altcoins on their Bitcoin pair, that gives a bit of picture, actually. If you look at that, you've been wrecked for so long. So long. It was a patience tester, and people in crypto, yeah, there is no patience, of course, because we are used to big moves fast, right? Therefore, we're in crypto. And then after all of that waiting, we got that final sweep down, and the people that were left, and there weren't a lot, they were like, okay, it's over, right? Here, same thing, and here, same thing. How many people nowadays do you hear or say, how many people nowadays do you hear saying that it is over, right? Okay, but the reason always kind of get left behind. It's usually it's mostly just because prices are low. If prices are low equals that it's over, it's not really. If you do some back testing, that's not really the case, right? So a lot of people here probably say, "Fuck it, I'm out." And what happens whenever people do that? Then we get a fat rally, right? And of course, because people first have to get out to make sure that there's low liquidity, because with a lot of liquidity, you cannot get that fat rally in the first place. So it makes a lot of sense, right? Therefore, people say we need people to leave in order to get a big move. Well, this is why, actually. So I said flooding the lows is natural human nature. Prices are down, so it feels bad. And that's understandable. But we are closer to a bottom than where we were 5 months ago when you had no problem buying. Risk is now lower, reward is now higher. However, you cannot buy because you went all in at the previous highs. And then that kind of sucks for people, right? They saw the market go up, then it feels comfortable. When it feels comfortable, it is not a great buying moment, actually. But again, that's totally the other way around, right? So they bought here, and then the market went down. People got mad at the market, at Trump, at influencers, anyone but themselves. Yeah, and then when the low is there, even if they wanted to buy, they can't because they have no more money. Right? But how do you make money? By buying low and selling high, right? That's very simple. Yeah, the market goes up and down. If you are scared every time that it's down and you don't buy, then there's also simply not anything for you whenever the market is up. So it's a two-step process, right? You buy low and you sell high. Most people already mess it up at step one. Now, why? Because this time is different. Of course, every time is different, and then it isn't. And the people who thought that got left behind, FOMO back in, and get wrecked. Don't underestimate bull markets. Of course, bear markets, it's likely to get wrecked. Bull markets, people expect to make money. You have no clue, I think, in that case, how many people actually lose money in a bull market as well. Because it's a matter of preparing when it's low, then riding it up. Don't sell too soon, don't sell too late, and then you make money. Yeah, most people don't even buy the lows in the first place, right? So they buy the tops later on when there's enough confirmation that it actually is a bull market. Yeah, and by the time you have that much confirmation, the opportunity is already out the window. So nobody knows if it is different this time. But history shows that if you think that, that has a perfect 0% win rate. So why betting against all the odds, right? Because you are emotional. And that's understandable, but that is what fucks it up for people, emotions, right? Now, you're either then new or simply not made for this. And I don't want to sound like a dick, but a lot of people are not made for this, right? They see the market go up and they be like, oh, I want to be there. No clue that the reward is so high because the risk is also that high. And whenever the market goes down, they feel like, fuck, it's not what I signed up for. Altcoins are supposed to go down 70% in a matter of maybe even a couple weeks, right? Always been that way. But every time it happens, it feels like the world is over, of course. But let me show you the odds. And I said right here, disclaimer, this specifically goes about altcoins, because not a single Bitcoin holder is wrecked, right? Like if you trade it wrong, then of course you can get wrecked. But if you look at this, Bitcoin is sitting at 105K at the moment of recording. The all-time high was 111-ish, right? So the absolute worst case scenario, a holder of Bitcoin is down 6%. Dude, I was down 6% like last hour probably, right? Like that, but that's forbidden, right? So Bitcoin holders are not wrecked. And if you worry about Bitcoin, I cannot even try to help you. I mean, Bitcoin will grow forever. That's what it's designed for. If you look at the adoption right now, the scarcity, the fact that like, I don't even try to explain that, right? So all we need is altcoins to do well against Bitcoin. You can say like, hey, they are, oh, did I say this? Welcome to the FOMO factory. 10 minutes later, like the video if you like the video, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. Let me know what you think about all of this, right? So, but all we need is odds to do well against BTC. Now, you can say like, yeah, but they are not doing well. Yeah, no, they are not doing well. Like they are not supposed to do well. Again, if you look at odds on that pair, you know, you can see like, hey, they go down basically the majority of the full cycle. They go sideways. They have that wick, and then a brief moment they outperform, right? They don't win. And again, brief moment outperform here. A brief moment they outperform, right? But that's a matter of a couple months within a 48-month cycle. Yeah, but if you expect them to outperform for the first 30 months in a cycle, then you are going to get disappointed, of course. Sorry for the noise, just got food delivery. So manage your expectations at first. You can say like it's over right now because it's doing bad. No, it's doing bad, so it is actually the same, right? But we are not at the point yet where they do outperform, and that's not weird. So a couple of reasons why I think it's obvious to be bullish on alts. And after this thread, and what I'm going to show you right here, I want you, if you are bearish, please give me a good reason to be bearish, or multiples actually that can compete with the things that I'm looking at, because I am open to see why there's also a bad case scenario, but I just simply don't see it at this moment actually. So one, retail is not here, just like the last two cycles when it was the best buying opportunity. You can see it as a bad thing, like, well, nobody is here, so who's gonna buy? well, nobody is here, so who's going to sell, right? If they're not here, they cannot sell. But they are potentially, there are potentially a lot of people to buy, right? So look, the risk levels are sitting at 0, right? It's a ghost town right now. So yeah, maybe that's also the reason that the US just dropped a fucking bomb on a country and that the altcoin market sold off with max like 15%. Like, like I said lately as well, like we have seen bigger corrections during times of no war, right? And that's probably because everybody who wanted to sell and got out already got out. 2, the reason why I think alts are going to do really well, in order for money to flow from Bitcoin to alts, the Bitcoin dominance needs to drop, right? It's sitting currently at the very highest risk levels possible. Every time that Bitcoin was sitting at these risk levels, that suggested the top of the bull market, right? So why be bullish on something that is screaming risk? If you look at this, that 0.9 up to 1 risk level, we hit that 3 times in history. One of those was right before Altseason started, and the other 2 times there was a big correction in the Bitcoin dominance, and we are now there again. So how can you say like, oh yeah, but now let's be bullish? And it's the same as Bitcoin showing that all the top indicators and the risk levels are flashing, and you'll be like, okay, let's open a 10x long. Why? What? Why? Right? Why? Don't. If you do, use my affiliate link, but I don't think there's a lot profit coming from that anyway. 3, dominance for Bitcoin, ETH, and stables is looking like this. So in other words, this is everything except alts, right? So this is the prime example of an oscillator. And if you go to the range lows, that's what an Altseason is, right? That's money flowing from Bitcoin, ETH, and stables into alts. So if you look at this chart with the range low, range high, range low, range high, and at the range high, you're going to be bullish. If you are bullish on this chart, then, right? So, or let me put it like this. If you are bearish on alts, then you are bullish on this chart. Yeah. I don't want to offend people, but open your eyes. Like, how can you, like, can we maybe see something like this? Sure. Right? Maybe not. I don't know. But who's going to bet on this being a bullish thing? Like, that's weird, right? And it's not just this chart or this chart. No, it's this and this and this and the other things that are following, combining it. And that to me makes like, this is more than obvious for me. And again, it's not me saying like, hey, this will happen, because I have no clue. But it is, again, the horse race. You have a fast horse and there's a handicapped horse. Yeah, if the fast horse gets kidnapped in the middle of the race because it's a nice fast horse, then the handicapped horse can still win. But it's not something that you would bet on, right? Unless you're the kidnapper. In that case, it's a little fraud. But alts, Bitcoin, obvious structure to me. Bear market, ranging, sweeping the lows, bull market, right? Bear market, like we showed, range, sweep the low, bull market. Bear market, range, sweep the low, bull market. And what we have right now, bear market, range, and we are now in that sweep of the lows. It doesn't have to repeat again. I'm not trying to suggest that. But the fact that it's now dropping makes it look more like the last cycles. And it happens to be that last cycles, it got followed by a huge run. So yeah. Then seasonality. The post-halving year has always been bullish for alts. Fair enough. There are only 2 reference points. But with everything that I combine in this video and in this thread, you also want to bet against the seasonality and the cyclical behavior. If it now was 2026, then all these charts would make less sense given the seasonality. But it's also that all these moves always occurred during the post-halving year. And it's now the post-halving year. So it's also time-wise, it's an extra like confirmation, like, yeah, it makes sense, right? Then we have, of course, like a little bit more macro. and that's the Fed balance sheet. We're now in QT, and it's funny, right? Because if you overlay the Altseason chart with the Fed balance sheet, you see that every time we are in QT, altcoins drop against Bitcoin, right? We were in QT here as well. Now alts drop against Bitcoin. Yeah, there have been like suggesting and hinting more towards the fact that QT might come to a stop. And it's not even that I'm saying like we need QE. Here we had no QE, and this alt season was bigger than this one, right? But this is for me not even a matter of if, but when. Because what do you think? If QT continues forever, then the Fed balance sheet goes to zero. Of course they don't do that. What could then happen? They got something called money printers for that, right? So this is more, again, like when, not if. 7, the sentiment. Out of the 10 people in crypto that we have right now, give or take, 8 people are bearish, right? I can't stress this enough. You don't need any chart, although I'm showing only charts, but you don't need any charts. All you need to do, become rich as fuck, is to counter trade the sentiment. You can close your eyes, right? If you have some Google Translate talking to you, otherwise you have to read. But you can just look at comments, you can just see the sentiment. And if you trade that, no need to overcomplicate. That's it, right? My comment section as well. I make the same content quite often, right? Whenever the market is up, I get nice comments. But whenever the market is down, yeah, people are kind of not so happy with that same type of comment. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that the content has changed. It's just that, you know, whenever things are low, whenever things are low, people don't want to hear about like, oh, it's going up, right? Well, in fact, if it is low, there's more room to go up, right? But it all goes against your feelings, and therefore it doesn't make sense, right? But therefore, again, shut down your feelings or concentrate. Next reason being is the ETH dominance. As the biggest altcoin, ETH has an impact, right? The dominance went down to 2019 levels, and it happened to have its biggest bounce exactly at that level. Last time it happened, ETH went from 140 to 5K, right? This is where we were. Yeah, here, again, people said ETH was dead. Well, in fact, it had a major bounce from that level. It's not that because it is cheap, right? It's not like price doesn't equal quality. Right? If anything, all these altcoins are way more expensive than they should be, actually. But it doesn't matter. It's a matter of hype and attention. And yeah, again, here it's oversold, right? And here it's overbought. Yeah, let's go back to the overbought, or at least close to it. Then, this is an interesting one, I think. Because this chart, this is the Russell 2000, right? We all know the SPX 500, S&P 500, the 500 biggest companies market cap-wise, but we also have the Russell. So that these are basically the low-cap shit stocks, right? If you put that against the S&P, you see how similar this chart looks, like alts against Bitcoin. It's been going down really fucking hard. So people that have been saying like altcoins are going down because there are too many altcoins, or I don't actually think it has anything to do with crypto. It's a macro risk-off environment at this moment. But it will never stay risk-off, right? If it depends on crypto, then I can imagine that people worry. But if you look at the macro, again, money printers, if it's all going down too much, eventually they will print money, people have more money, and they will go risk on again, right? And the same goes for alts. So again, this chart shows that this is not a crypto problem. People don't have money for risk on assets. Oh well, what do we do when we run out of money? Brr, right? So it's like, this comforts me a lot, actually. Then money in the market. Where's the money coming from? Again, apart from the infinite money printers, maybe the $3 trillion that's already in the market, let alone what's going to be added to the market. So what do you think that will happen if even 0.00001% of that money flows into your $30 million market cap coin? Right? That's like, the impact is going to be absolutely huge in that case. Therefore, you should buy the lows. Or at least, like, you cannot time the low, but somewhere around these levels, right? Again, if you look at a I don't know, a render, for example, right? Look how easily this thing got up with 25% in 2 days, basically, without anything render specific, without money printers, without an alt season, without a change in monetary policy, without anything. It's a matter of liquidity. It's low, so a little money that flows in, that goes up. Yeah, coffee chill. Thanks. So with a little money already flowing in, a high cap like render poops out 25% in just 2 days. Yeah, and then we had nothing that we are actually supposed to get yet. So therefore lows are lovely, actually. Similar to that, Bitcoin is now around 100K. Look at the liquidity. We don't even need a big portion of that to flow into alts, especially with the current low altcoin prices. So it takes absolutely nothing to 3x to start with, right? We all are waiting for Altseason, right? The Bitcoin dominance, thanks, man, to go down really hard. But even if the Bitcoin dominance, like it showed right here in December, it went down with just 11%. Altcoins 5x'd from that point. At least some 10, right? Like the December, that was crazy. While the Bitcoin dominance went down with 11%. Compared to last alt season where it went down with 47%. Why is that? Because Bitcoin wasn't worth 100K right here, but it is worth 100K right here. So take a little liquidity out of a Bitcoin with a $2 trillion market cap, of course, has a way bigger impact on your altcoins than taking liquidity out of Bitcoin with a $300 billion market cap, right? And who knows how high Bitcoin will be whenever alt season occurs, right? Because so far, that's quite cool. Every start of alt season, if you overlay Bitcoin, so far at least, right? Here, lines up with Bitcoin also going parabolic, right? And here, right? Yeah, if that happens this cycle, then I am here, honestly, to tell you, if you are not making more than at least a 20x, you are doing something fucking wrong, right? Again, if that happens this cycle. But hey, 2 out of the 2. Let's not bet against it, at least, right? And another reason is common sense, I think. People loved to buy an altcoin for $8, but they hate to buy it at 80 cents. Why? What changed? Except for the price, right? And of course, there could be a specific project that fucked up. Overall, most of the altcoin market, if there's inflation on the altcoin, cool. That's nice because more time went by, there's less dumping that can happen right now, right? They had time to build in the meantime as well. So if anything, most projects should be better right now, but they are cheaper. Like, I don't know, that's, you cannot get more of a definition of just a simple discount than that, right? If you want to buy a car, like if I see a really cool car and they tell me it's 80K, and I feel like, oh yeah, I want to buy it for 80K, and I can buy that same car, same everything, no nothing, just exactly everything the same, but for 8K, I'm not gonna say no to that, right? Unless I already bought some cars for 80K and I don't have 8K anymore. And I think that's the problem here, actually. That a lot of people, again, you know, they look at render and they bought really high at around $12, $13, and they now see it sitting at $3. And it's not that they probably feel like, oh, this is bad. It's more like, hey, I don't have money to buy it, so I don't fucking want this coin to even go up because look at what I'm missing out on then. Maybe it's like that. I was a bit of a person like that, so I can imagine. So I barely even included TA in this thread, right? Nothing. I can easily give 10 other valid reasons why things are looking more likely to go up a lot than completely die off, right? But most people will respond with, nah, it doesn't matter because we now have pump fund that fucked it up. And then I'm like, dude, really? Is that like, I want to hear, I try on the channel to provide my thoughts. I'm why bullish, and I'm actually trying to show it. Right? And you don't have to agree, but at least I'm trying to make a point based on more than nothing. Right? But if people then say, well, we have more alts right now, or right, which are all dead, or we have now pump fun, and nobody cares about new. Like, have you seen this? Like, come on, man. So again, buy the lows, sell the highs. Not FUD the lows and stay sidelined at the highs. That just simply doesn't work, right? If you want to make money, you have to buy low, right? But the market doesn't go down on great news. So if it is low, yeah, it's also always because of a reason. And that reason is always also the reason that people say or use that this time is different and that it's bad. Yeah, I mean, maybe try for once that it might not be different, because so far that has made people money, right? And hey, will it be different sometime? Maybe. But again, don't bet against a winning strategy, I'd say. So if you are honestly bearish at this point, ask yourself why. Because you actually have some good reasons for it, or because you maybe messed up and got caught up in the current sentiment too much. This time is different, has never made anybody rich, and you will not be an exception. Right? You are not, and I am not, and nobody, we are not that smart. People always try to out clever, always. And so far they always got wrecked. Now, when it comes to the market itself, look, I don't want to be like, oh wow, look, it's fucking mooning again. Like, hey, alts overall on the month are down, right? On the week, yeah, they are now up. But if you look at it on the daily, yeah, you can see short term, this is nothing to celebrate yet, right? Low highs, lower lows, it's just a lower high so far. That's great. But everything that I just showed has nothing to do with how the market is going to look like today or tomorrow, right? This is all like at least has to play out over a few months, right? And therefore, you know, but even if you bought this here, right, the April lows, the high cap altcoin market, right, only the high caps went up with 70%, right? If you somewhere near this bought and somewhere near here sold, took profits, you have around 50% gain on your portfolio. Right? If you are a bag holder and you never take profits, then you could have bought here, but then here you were back again, right? Then there's no use, of course. So I'd say do take your profits as well. Otherwise, this is all for nothing. If you actually really want to hold something long term, long term, then go with Bitcoin, right? That will like be around in 10 years and probably higher. If you want to like take maybe 3-4 trades in a year, yeah, if you trade the altcoin market a little bit, right? Just buy somewhere here, sell somewhere here, right? Like, and in hindsight, it looks easy. But go back to these moments and watch my videos. There I explain why it was obvious at that point as well. And here as well. Now we could be ranging here for a while. It's fine. If we look at the altcoin market, excluding stables, right? So the actual altcoin market, we are now, to be fair, sitting at fat horizontal resistance. If we do break this, then I think it's party time, especially if we go above the May highs. But it's a long way from there, right? But overall, if I look at this and you just zoom out, that's the kind of thing that comforts me. We have the downtrend, we have the lower trend line, and we have the upper trend line. We are sitting pretty much at the lower trend line. Right? If we were sitting here, I will be talking about selling, of course. But yeah, it's always been the case. Sell here, buy here, sell here, buy here, right? And we are now here. So buy. Don't overcomplicate it. That's it. Like the video. If you do like the video, subscribe if you're new and you feel like, hey, then hey, I don't know what you might think, but subscribe if you're new. Turn the bell notification on if you want to get on a call with me to go over your portfolio, your strategy. You want to curse at me and then go away. It's also fine. Check out the Alpha Factory down below. Nobody ever has done that so far. It will be a really bad day for me if that happens. Totally preparing for your strategy and you just come, fuck you. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.